Dexter Original Sin's first episode has been released, and surprisingly the episode has been quite decent, even though some viewers didn't like it, claiming it's just a cash grab at this point, criticizing the acting and complaining that it doesn't have the same feel as the old series, but in reality it wasn't really that bad. Hello everybody, my name is Eidolon. If you are new to this channel, welcome. Today we're gonna talk about Dexter Original Sin, a prequel of the original Dexter series, where we get to see younger version of Dexter and mostly how everything started for him. We get to see the inexperienced parts of him, the struggles, the methods, everything. And we also get to see the background of other characters such as Deb, Masuka, Harry, Angel, etc. And on top of that, there's something really interesting. We get new information about Dexter Resurrection. Yes, if you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Now let's get to the video. In the previous video, I've covered the potential start of Dexter Resurrection, where I've made some mistakes because it wasn't clear enough in the trailer and we could not exactly make a lot from 2 seconds of footage. Now, in Dexter Original Sin, we get the confirmation at the start of the first episode that Dexter survived New Blood. How he managed to survive is still unknown, but we can see that the episode starts with Dexter being transported into the ER in a police car, probably one of the cars that came after Angela called in the accident that happened in New Blood. Maybe that's even her car, who knows. It shows Dexter laying in the backseat of the car, losing his conscience from the loss of blood most likely. He remembers Harrison shooting him, and the next scene we see is in the emergency room where he lost the pulse and they try to revive him using Diffit, and eventually somehow they are able to get the pulse. Thank God.
We have a heartbeat.
A beating heart. I'll take it.
And now we know that Dexter is 100% confirmed to be alive. But when he was dead for these few seconds, he experienced what's so-called a light flashing behind his eyes, which is supposed to happen when we die. And this is what Dexter Original Sin basically is. It's actually Dexter's life flashing behind his eyes. And from this perspective, we still feel the connection to the original character, and we are able to accept this series' existence and not feel alienated, especially because Michael C. Hall is still the inner voice of Dexter. After the explanation, we are being taken back to the beginning, and I'm talking about actual beginning, where we get to see Laura, Dexter's biological mother, giving birth to him. We didn't get to see Brian though, which I was hoping they would show because they are brothers at the end of the day, but it was a nice flashback. Then the episode continues with Dexter operating on a corpse in med school, and I'm not gonna go through all the details because if you haven't watched it yet, it wouldn't feel right just telling you what happens frame by frame. Instead, we're gonna focus more on the important parts of this episode. So, what are the important parts of this episode? Well, we get to see younger version of some of the characters that we know, such as Deb, Masuka, Angel, and Harry. We're also introduced to a new character, Tanya Martin, who is the head of forensics department, and she's going to become Dexter's mentor, later boss. We don't get to see much of her in this episode, but she seems to be an interesting character. There were other new characters introduced along Tanya as well, such as Aaron Spencer, who is the captain of Miami Metro and Harry's boss, and then there is Bobby Watt, who is Harry's co-worker and a friend. The first intense part in this episode is when Dexter and Deborah go to a party and Deborah gets drunk. Then she goes to a room with this guy whose name is Andy, I believe. Deborah's friend Sophia comes rushing to Dexter because she is worried about her, saying she's not responding and that the door is locked. Dexter isn't hesitating and breaks in as fast as he can, and he starts attacking the guy. It gets intense because when Dexter is fighting the guy and he sees the knife on the table, he gets this urge to grab the knife and just stab him, but thankfully Deborah yanks him off and he doesn't go through. This is the first time Dexter actually comes close to someone, and I almost thought we wouldn't get to see Dexter in the first episode, but they always save the best for the last. After that, there was one interesting backstory covered in this episode as well, for which I'm not sure if they have mentioned it in the original run, but we learned that before Deborah and Dexter, Harry had a son named Junior, who died by drowning in the pool outside of Harry's house. It was the result of Harry's carelessness because Harry was too invested in watching a game that he forgot where his son went went, and by the time he realized, it was just too late. That is even one of the reasons Harry cared so much about Dexter. It's obvious that he didn't want to make the same mistake with him. The next morning, Harry and Dexter go to a hunting trip where Harry suffers a heart attack and he has to go to a hospital. In this hospital, Harry's nurse is actually Nurse Mary, who we know from Dexter's original series, where we learn in season 1 episode 3 that he was Dexter's first victim. Dexter realizes that the nurse is poisoning Harry with slowly increasing the dose of potassium in his medication. Dexter breaks into her cabinet where he finds her trophies and sees that she's actually a serial killer poisoning patients around the facility. Because Dexter has a proof, Harry actually approves Dexter's plan of putting an end to her, and Dexter actually proceeds with it. He struggles a bit with the preparation and everything in general, but it's understandable because this is his first time. But the actual representation of an old flashback was very accurate. It even included the story of Nurse Mary's cat.
Mr. Tinker! Mr. Tinker, where are you? Mr. Tinker? Are you trapped behind the couch again, Mr. Tinker Stinker?
In the old flashback, Dexter breaks into Mary's home and creates a kill room with plastic sheets. He waits for Mary to return with his famous syringe, ready to put her to sleep with horse tranquilizer. However, Dexter's inexperience is evident as he fails to sedate Nurse Mary. He ends up being embroiled in a physical fight, though he manages to overpower her. We get to see the whole process, and I kind of enjoyed this part of the episode the most. This is all happening while Deborah is at her volleyball game, although Dexter promised he would be at the game, but clearly he was busy doing what he does best. And what was also interesting about his first kill is that he didn't have a boat yet, so he used a car to transport a corpse to the swamp where he fed it to the alligators. I think we could say that he wasn't the true mighty Bay Harbor butcher yet, and that's good to know because we weren't able to see an inexperienced Dexter in an original show other than flashbacks. All we could see was a professional. The last thing this episode shows us is that Harry didn't himself because of Dexter's first, like some of the people thought. He was sort of relieved knowing that Dexter saved his life, but at the same time he found it hard to accept because this wasn't something that was in line with his principles, and it was something he thought he wouldn't have to go through with Dexter. At the end of the episode, when Dexter returns back home, Tanya offers him a paid internship at Miami Metro. The episode concludes with Dexter's graduation, and it sets up for the second episode, which will be Dexter's first day working a homicide case. I really enjoyed the first episode, and I honestly didn't expect it to be that good. Let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Have you enjoyed it? Have you hated it? I want to know your opinion. If you haven't watched it yet, the episode is available on Paramount Plus and some other streaming services. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week with another episode.
Peace out.